What's going on, guys? It's your boy Hoinoi. Welcome to the first ever episode of Spicy Species Review, where the species are spicy and the reviews are too. This week I'm going to be reviewing carpet pythons in captivity. Specifically this female Irian Jaya Carpet Python, which is the only one that I have personal experience with, but I think that this review can apply to carpet pythons as a whole just as easily. If you're looking for a care guide, that's not what this is. I actually linked you the best one that I have found in the description, but you're going to want to watch this video too because the information I have for you is arguably just as important. Now, they're called carpet pythons because they have this cool pattern that people equated to Middle Eastern carpets, Persian rugs, that kind of thing. However, they actually come from Australia and New Guinea, so nothing Middle Eastern about them. And really nothing carpet or upholstery related. But if you want to impress your friends, if you have a pet one of these, go ahead and tell them when they ask why they're called carpet pythons, and tell them that they're so common that they're thick in the streets of Melbourne like a carpet. This one is an Irian Jaya Carpet Python, or an IJ for short. Probably the most commonly kept species in captivity. Also the smallest, I want to say. I think there are subspecies that get smaller, but you won't see them commonly in the hobby. This is a juvenile. She's about probably coming up on 2 years actually, so quite small considering. She's going to max out at maybe 5 feet, but probably even less than that. They are sexually dimorphic in that females are larger than males, but not to the same extent as some other species like anacondas or even ball pythons where the females are just so much bigger. It's a little bit of a closer race for these guys. Hello. That said, they're a medium-sized python. This is not a corn snake. This is not a ball python. This is something that's going to need, ideally, a 4-foot-long enclosure at adult size. I read recently that you can get away with 3 feet for IJs like this, but that feels like you're pushing it to me. They also have, like most snakes, a 15 to 20-year lifespan, so it's a bit of a commitment in terms of size, how long you're going to have to be responsible for it. Also, they eat mice and rats, which aren't particularly cheap. Other carpet python subspecies get much bigger. Some of them get to 9 feet. They're a python, not a boa, which means that they lay eggs. They don't give live birth. And they have a dark purple tongue, which is cool and different. A lot of snakes just have the classic pink tongue. She's got these kind of steel gray eyes that are almost purple in the light, which is really cool. Also a slender-bodied semi-arboreal snake, which means they spend about equal time in the trees and on the ground. So if you're looking for a snake that'll climb and be kind of a display animal on a big branch or tree in a beautiful, possibly bioactive enclosure, this is an okay choice. You know, it's not a fully arboreal snake. It's not always going to be in the trees, but you will see it sometimes, hopefully. That's actually the perfect transition into the next section of this review, which is going to be about my personal experiences with this particular animal. Her first enclosure was a plastic tub setup that was quite tall, and I actually hot glued PVC pipes crisscrossing the top, hoping that she was going to make use of those structures to climb on. I was told and believed that that was a necessary part of her setup, and almost anybody would agree, although there are people who keep them in pretty bare bones, low to the ground setups and have great success. That is frowned upon by some. Just looking at the snake, by how slender it is and the wrap that it has on me right now, you can tell that it is an excellent climber. It's no ball python, it's no sand boa. This is a tree snake when it wants to be. That said, I went to all those efforts to give her climbing structures in her tub, and she didn't use them at all. Ever, ever, ever. Never once did I see her climb on there. When I took her out for handling or whatever else, I would put her back and I would release her onto the climbing structures, and she would just glide right over them and go down to the floor and hide in her hole, where she would remain for all eternity. This has turned out to be an extremely sedentary snake. I don't know if that's typical of the species, but it is for this girl. I give her lots of opportunities to exercise, to explore, and all she wants to do, whether it's in her enclosure or out somewhere in my apartment, is hide and be completely still. So that has caused me some anxiety over the time that I've kept her, and that I always am worried, like, is something wrong? Is she okay? but I've decided that it's just her. The enclosure is completely up to snuff. The temperature, the humidity, everything's on point. She just likes to take it easy. She likes to feel safe and secure and doesn't like to expend energy when she doesn't have to. So here I have her out and she's on the move and trying to get comfortable / sniff around and see what's happening. But without me going in there and taking her out of her hide, I imagine she would spend the whole day in the hide. These are, like many snakes, a nocturnal species, which is attested to by the slit pupil, right? Round pupils for diurnal snakes, slit pupils for nocturnal snakes. You do have a slit pupil, don't you? Yeah, big time. So you might say, oh, you're just not seeing the activity because it's all happening at night. I am looking at night and there's still not a whole lot of activity. Once in a blue moon, I'll see her come out and explore around her enclosure, or if she's trying to shed her skin, she will go all over the place, rubbing her nose on stuff, trying to get that skin off. But generally, she's just not a super active snake. Again, I don't know if this is something you can apply to all carpet pythons or just this one. It could be the personality of the individual snake, which is the case with a lot of this stuff. The other thing that caused me anxiety keeping this snake is the whistling sound that comes out of her nose sometimes. If you know snakes, you know that a wheezing sound or a whistling sound coming from the throat or the nose of a snake is generally a sign of a respiratory infection. It means that they're all gunked up with mucus because they have an infection in their lungs and they're not well. They're suffering and they're sick, and if it gets bad enough, it could kill them. That's something I always listen for when I'm assessing the health of a snake, is the breathing. And this is a snake that right from when I got it had a whistling sound. It wasn't all the time, which is what you hear with really bad respiratory infections, but it was whenever it was exerting itself. Whenever it was climbing or squeezing something, you would hear it exhale and there would be a whistle. So I said, okay, this snake has a respiratory infection. I'm gonna have to take care of this. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this. So I paid great attention to this snake and I made sure that its husbandry was absolutely on point, knowing that if the respiratory infection got any worse, I would have to drop $150+ on a vet visit, which is something I've had to do before and something I wasn't looking forward to. And I kind of felt, oh man, this guy sold me a sick snake. It's now been a year plus, maybe a year and a half, that I've had this snake and the whistling persists. I did some research into it, and a nose whistle, not a wheeze, is something that you can hear in carpet pythons. Uh-oh, I guess I was cutting my own head off for half the video there. But like I was saying, a nose whistle, not a wheeze, is essentially normal for this species, according to what I read on forums. And the forum post specifically cited Irian Jaya's, this particular snake, as commonly having a little bit of a nose whistle. And so apparently it's not a bad thing, but it is enough to kind of put a keeper on the edge and be worried about the health of the animal. So that wasn't fun, but I'm over it now. The next thing I want to talk about is the temperament of the snake. She is extremely jittery. She's easily spooked. She squirms away from you when you pick her up and tries to get away, but once you've got her, she obviously calms down and enters more of a thinking, exploratory mode or mental state, as you can see here. I've never been bitten by this snake. In my time working with this girl, I've definitely had to manhandle her a little bit to get her out of something that she was crawling into that she wasn't supposed to get into. Situations like that where I guess I was just moving quicker than I normally would, and I have startled her and seen her go into a defensive posture where she makes an S shape out of her neck like she's gonna bite, but she does not bite. She has put herself in a strike position, she has hissed at me, but she has never so much as opened her mouth. Not that I have, but I think you could really push this snake's limits in terms of manhandling it or even abusing it, and it still would not bite you. So again, I don't know if that's true for all Irian Jaya carpet pythons or all carpet pythons in general. Maybe it's just the personality of this one snake. And while I hesitate to call her a sweetheart because she is defensive, she's not bitey at all. So yeah, if you're looking for a snake that you would feel comfortable handing off to, say, a 6-year-old, this is definitely one of them. This particular snake, at least. In terms of how the snake looks, I think they're some of the most beautiful snakes on earth. They're most famous for their pattern, but that's not really what does it for me. It's the head shape. They've got these big eyes and those raised nostrils, plus the really formidable heat pits. Now, having said that this is one of the most beautiful snakes in the world, I want to say that I think that they get less attractive with age. I commented earlier on these big bug eyes that don't grow by a whole lot as the snake grows. So you go from a snake with a very big eye for its head, which is, you know, part of the formula for cuteness across the animal kingdom, that goes to a bigger, large-bodied snake with very small eyes. They also really thicken up as they get older, and they will always be semi-arboreal and always be a slimmer body snake than, say, a Burmese python or a boa constrictor or something like that. But they do thicken up. And the other thing is, like all snakes that are kept as pets, there is a tendency towards obesity. Most of the pet snakes that you see on this planet are actually obese compared to what they would be in the wild. It's simply a consequence of regular feeding and essentially overfeeding. And that's a topic for maybe another video, but when you see a fat carpet python, you see a fat carpet python. Like the snakes, like ball pythons and even boa constrictors that naturally are bulkier, hide the weight better. You might say that the weight looks good on them, or at least it doesn't jump out at you when you look at the snake. But with a fat carpet python, I think even somebody who doesn't know snakes will say, oh, there's something wrong. There's something off about this snake. What's going on here? So, one of the most beautiful snakes in the world can turn into kind of, I can't believe I'm going to say it, one of the ugliest. But not this girl right here. She is currently a great weight. She never refuses a meal. She always takes food. I feed her the occasional chick and plenty of rodents. Their diet in the wild, I imagine, is much more varied than that. But like with most snakes, rodent diet is a complete diet. So in that way, they're very easy. In closing, would I recommend this snake? Yes, to anybody. Would I recommend Irian Jaya Carpet Pythons as pets? Yes, I'm quite confident they're the best suited to captivity simply because they're the smallest. I know you want a big, impressive snake, and these guys will get there, but they're not so big that you have to section off half of your apartment and turn it into an exhibit for them. And I guess the most important question, do I recommend carpet pythons or Irian Jaya Carpet Pythons as a first pet snake? And to that I say, if you are a responsible person who has done the research, knows how long it's going to live, what it's going to cost to feed it, what they're going to have to do to house it and keep it healthy and happy, I say why not? They're not particularly complicated in terms of husbandry. Temperatures and humidity are pretty easy to keep up. They're widely considered to be a very hardy family of snakes. This girl has definitely proven to be that. Again, a little jittery to begin with, but she warms right up once she realizes that you're bringing her out to party and you're not some kind of predator that's swooping down on her to rip her guts out. Again, absolutely no threat of a bite from this snake, even though I'm speaking at her with a booming voice and she's kind of going, whoa. I'm sure there are plenty of people who've been bitten by carpet pythons out there, but I think that this one will go its whole 20-year lifespan without ever biting anybody. I'm willing to bet on it. Ugh! This review might not have been as spicy as I made it out to seem like it was going to be, or I wanted it to be. I'm not exactly on my A game this morning, but the species is exactly as spicy as promised. Check this thing out. 5 stars. 11 out of 10. Alright, you guys, that's it for this episode of Hoi Noi TV. I'm your boy Hoi Noi, aka Alex, aka Horrible Noise. This has been Spicy Species Review, a new series that I just thought of right now, and I'm going to keep doing while I go through not only all the different species that I keep, but all of the species that I have kept. Over my 20 plus years of experience in keeping reptiles and other exotic animals. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, shoot me a comment telling me what you did like or what was missing. Where I'm at with the channel right now, I'm definitely reading and personally responding to all comments. Thanks to COVID-19, over the last 9 or 10 months since I started the channel, the content hasn't been everything that I want it to be, but summer is on its way and things are looking up. I just bought a spear gun on Amazon, I'm looking into wetsuits, and I also have a GoPro now. I also bought a small rust bucket of a fishing boat. So in addition to more Spicy Species Review, there's going to be a whole lot of outdoor content coming up this summer. So you definitely want to stay tuned. You want to be subscribed to the channel and you want to hit that little bell button that makes sure that you get notified every time I upload. If you want to support me even more, I do have a Patreon page now where you can throw me a couple bucks on a monthly basis that help me feed my animals, rescue more animals, get better equipment, and make better content for your eyeballs. Shout out to my current patrons, Big Clay Dog from the streets of the Northwest and Nasty J. While we're doing shout outs, shout out to all my Irian Jaya Carpet Python enthusiasts out there. Shout out to Ricky Mack, who got bit by the taipan and has made a full recovery. Shout out to Clint's Reptiles, the big homie with the enthusiasm. Shout out to my man Steve Irwin. Shout out to all the stingrays in the world. It's not your fault. We don't blame you. Shout out to LL Cool J. I haven't heard from you in a while. Big up to the West Side Massive. And lastly, big ups to anyone out there who has unironically been scared by a scarecrow. That's it for this episode of Hoy Noy TV, guys. I'm Alex. Peace.